Yeah, no. So I feel like, if you could, and I think it'd be pretty cool for people to hear, just kind of your story. I think a lot of people have maybe bits and pieces of it. A lot of people probably have heard through the grapevines as far as an American success story and how it's possibly have looked. But you are an example of what an American success story looks like. So if you could just please kind of just start, about just your life and how did you get to this point?
Well, I appreciate that. And stop me and ask questions anytime you want to.
Will do.
Ditch Digger CEO, how did we come up with this name, Ditch Digger CEO, right? Kind of a different kind of name. And was I a ditch digger? Yeah, I've dug some ditches in my day, but not necessarily a ditch digger, but I was called this at one point in my life. So I mean, we're going to talk about how we built these businesses, and again, I believe they're great American success stories. Every one of these businesses and the group of companies we have today, including our nonprofits and the True Mentors that you run, and Rabine Group Foundation. But here, Ditch Digger CEO, why, right? It starts with when I think back at our businesses and motivations and things that created kind of a chip on my shoulder as I grew from entry level business person to where we are today. I don't forget things, right? I don't forget the things that motivated me. Negative stuff that motivated me, or positive stuff that motivated me. But in thinking of a name for this thing, I'm thinking, gosh, what describes this amazing journey that I've had from the beginnings of not a heck of a lot to where we are today with a lot of great things going on, right? Yeah. In business and family and networking and friendships and all the things I'm blessed with today came through a lot of different for a lot of different reasons, but Ditch Digger CEO starts with a story I have. I was in high school and around a bunch of the cooler kids in the study hall. Friends of mine that I wrestled with, I played football with, played pickup basketball with, as well as a couple cheerleaders and a couple of the cooler girls, right, in study hall. And I'm around a table and a friend of mine who's really kind of a smart ass friend of mine. They're talking about where they're all going to college. It's a senior year, and a couple juniors, but mostly seniors at the table. And this one friend of mine says, I'm going to. Looks like I'm going to go to Michigan State. Another friend's, I'm going to go to U of I, and they're all talking about the schools they're going to. And then the one friend of mine goes to me and says, Gary, what school are you going to? And he already knew my story. So, I said, I'm not going to college. I said, I'm going to be working. I got some opportunities to do some work with my dad, landscaping, grading, and doing all the stuff my dad does. And my dad at the time has small business, doing hauling material and doing grading and cutting trees and a lot of different things my dad did. And then I like this paving thing. I want to start paving also, paving driveways. And
so you had the passion to pave really that young?
I've been doing paving since about 13 years old, working for a guy through high school. As I worked with my dad, I took on this extra job when I could, paving driveways with this small paving contractor. That's awesome. I actually liked it a lot. So either way, bottom line is he said, he said, really, Gary, you're gonna be a ditch digger. And I said,
did he say it like that?
Yeah, he said he kind of said it quietly to me, and he goes, the world needs ditch diggers, Rabine. And a year before that or so, the golf movie came out.
Okay.
Do you remember the golf movie I'm talking about?
Probably not.
You remember this golf movie?
Old. I remember the golf.
What movie is that?
It's a classic with Bill Murray called Caddyshack.
Oh, it's a classic.
So Caddyshack came out, right? And in that movie, there was the rich guy said to the kid, he was the kid was aspiring to go to college someday, and this rich guy kind of acted like the kid wasn't very smart, and I forget the conversation exactly, but basically he said, hey, Danny, you know what? The world needs ditch diggers. And Danny just kind of took it a little tough maybe, but either way, this is the quote that this guy was coming up with. He said, the world needs ditch diggers, Rabine. And so I look at him and I kind of get a little chuckle, but then he turns around to the other 8 or 9 kids in the study hall they're at this big table and says, he goes, so Rabine's gonna be a ditch digger. and they all kind of looked, right, and half these kids knew I was going to college, and when all the other ones, all the kids there were, and it kind of it etched in my head, right. Number one, I knew this kid's a smart ass, but but still, I'll never forget it because I felt a little bit, probably a little bit underwhelming, right?
Yeah.
When everybody's going to college except me. But yet in my mind, I knew that for sure I knew how to make money. And my past and as a kid, my dad taught me how to make money. He taught me how to work hard. And I'm thinking, you know what, Al, someday you might need a job. And you can go to school for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, and you might be prepared 5 or 10 years from now to come back and work for me.
Yeah.
And either way, bottom line is it worked out pretty well because I did start working at a young age, and I worked at 18 years old out of high school. Worked with my dad, and we started paving driveways, and together we paved a lot of driveways, and that's where the story began.
Interesting.